Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to What's Your Story Radio. First of all, I'd like to thank you for all of your support that you've given me in the past year. And I've been around the world and back, as you can well imagine. And as you already know, I lived in Thailand for a while, and now I'm back in Washington State, where I was raised from the age of 14 to 40. So I'm back here visiting friends and family and all of that. So it's been really surreal to come back after being in Thailand, as you can well imagine. Tonight, I'm in Vancouver, Washington. I am with my two nieces who I adore. My brother and his wife are off to Aruba. So, I hope you guys are having a great time because I am. And it's just so great to be with two lovely young women that have turned out to be incredible people. What's Your Story is a show that is about an individual's unique story. And as we all know, everyone has their own unique story. The ups and downs, the all arounds, the trials, the tribulations, the triumphs. There's something that I want to make very clear, though. This is a show where we do not judge. Everybody's story is unique to themselves. So when you watch, keep an open mind about the guest, what they're talking about, and just know, once again, that your story and my story and everyone's story is very unique. So tonight I have a very special guest. I just met this guest a few weeks back. And I was very impressed because as I was speaking with her, I realized that she had written a book. Now, you might say, well, people write books all the time. And I agree with you. People write books all the time. But Sarah Hall has written a book at the age of 17. And this is not her first book. Sarah is a 17-year-old author whose hair is almost as colorful as her dazzling personality. She loves writing horror, humor, and fantasy, which has been known to make some people cry, which she is totally fine with. She has won a few awards for some of her short stories and is currently working on her first quote unquote real novel. Sarah finds herself very funny, but tends to laugh at her own jokes more than anyone else does. When she isn't writing, which is most of the time, you can find her complaining how cold it is, doodling, or trying her hand at video games that she never seems to get any better at. You can find her on Twitter at Ginger Author or Instagram at Ginger Author, where she mostly posts pictures of her cats. I will tell you that I have all of her information on my website, which is www.kathybacon.com. You can find all the videos I've done there, all the interviews. You can find out why I do What's Your Story, and it does get information about how you can actually contact Sarah because she is accessible, and she'll tell us more about that. So, without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Sarah Hall. Hey!
Oh,
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am good, and I'm so glad to see you tonight. And I really appreciate your time and coming to talk to us tonight. And thank you for that. So, Sarah, you're 17 and you're writing books. What's your story?
That's about it. I'm a 17-year-old and I love writing. It's my dream to be an author, and here I am. I'm doing it.
I know it's so amazing because like when I was talking about it, not many people write books at 17. I mean, what inspired you to write a book? Did you have an idea? Was there some story bubbling inside you. What sort of inspired you to get started writing?
Well, it was actually my eighth grade history teacher, of all people. I'd written an
Wow.
essay for his class, and he told me, Sarah, you need to stop using such big words in your essay. Just write a novel or something. And being the competitive person that I am, I'm like, yes, I'll do it. And so I went and I wrote a novel.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. And I bet you'd like to call him up and say, "Hey, thanks for saying that because now I've written a novel," right?
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about, you know, when you started to write your first book. I mean, did you just start writing or have you been writing for a few years now? Because I know books take time.
I've been writing for many, many years, probably 5 or 6, and I actually just started writing the novel I'm currently working on about a year and a half ago. That doesn't count all the planning that went into that, because then it's a bit
Right.
more. But as far as
Right.
writing goes, I've been writing for as long as I can remember. I've always been a very creative person, and writing's the best way that I can share that with everyone else.
Right, right. So, but you won some awards. So, were you writing smaller essays, or what were the awards for that you of your writing? Just creative writing?
Yep, creative writing. I wrote a few different short stories and turned those in actually to a few library contests around. And out of
Wow.
over 1,000 entries, I think mine was chosen for second place.
Oh my gosh, that's so fantastic. So, I mean, it just blows my mind that at 17 you're writing a book. So you must be an old soul in a young body.
Sometimes I feel that way, yeah.
Of course. I mean, wow. So, how many books I my audience is going to really freak out when they hear this. But how many books have you written?
So that's a really broad question. As far as books go, if we're counting both what I consider real books and not real books, it's probably somewhere around 10 or 12.
Oh my gosh. 10 or 12 books. And which one is your favorite?
I think every author's book that's their favorite is the one they're currently working on now or they're going to work on next.
Right, right. And so I think when we were talking, when I first met you, you said that you had written something like 700 pages, or your goal was to write 700 pages.
No, it was 75,000 to 90,000 words, and I landed at, I can actually read you the exact number here. I can pull it up. Here we go.
Oh my
Project
gosh.
statistics. It'll load here in a second.
Yes, it's okay. And that's something that's really been a great tool for you too, this program that you have as well. So I
Yeah.
really want you to talk a little bit about that too, because that's really helped you keep everything kind of together and organized, right?
Yes. So the
Yeah.
writing application I use is called Scrivener, and it's really great because it keeps your chapters organized. You can have separate folders for research, and it's also an app you can have on your phone. So that way,
Wow.
if you have an idea on the go, you can type it into your phone and later sync it to something on your laptop. It's
Oh
one of
my
the
God.
more higher end expensive writing programs. For my Mac, it
Right.
cost me $45. But
Right.
honestly, it was something that really kept me motivated. It's like, I spent $45 on this writing journey. I got to make it back. And
Yeah,
I did.
exactly. And not only that, but like you say, I mean, it keeps you organized. And I think keeping somebody organized when you're writing, keeping count of your words, it sounds like as well,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
It's keeping count of those words and your goals on that. It sounds like it's worth every bit of $45 it could be.
Yeah, it really is. So I actually have the full word count here. It's
Okay.
81,944 words.
81,000 words. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Thank
That is
you.
amazing. Wow. And this program's kind of kept it all together for you. And
Hmm.
you've been able to look it up, how much, and do you have a goal for how many words you actually want to write?
Yes, so ultimately, this is my first draft that I just finished here recently. My
Okay.
second draft, I'm aiming more around 90,000 words because that's a good 450 page book.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I didn't and this program probably tells you that as well, right? Like, okay, so this kind of equals so many chapters.
Hmm?
Wow, I've got a lot of writing to do on my book then.
Yeah, yeah.
I can tell you this, when I hear 80,000 words, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that is so incredible." And it's just so inspiring to see someone your age write a book. So tell us what your writing process is like.
So, as far as my writing process goes, I like to jump into the fray of things. I like having a beginning and the middle and the end all set out and laid out before me. And then I
Okay.
just tell my characters, I'm like, you go, you write your own story, and I just kind of follow them. I
Wow.
don't think of myself as a writer as much as I think myself as a follower of my characters. I develop my characters very, very fully, and I let
Okay.
them do their own thing.
Wow. So when you decide on the story, you already have your characters in place.
Yes, how I started writing this book is I created the character named Cade. And
Okay.
he is fantastic and he's adventurous. And he also has schizophrenia. And so he's got these conflicted emotions. And because he's a hitman, he sees all these crazy things. And the schizophrenia bugs him. And I created this story based on this character that I had created.
Okay.
And
Right.
it fleshed out itself. I didn't have to do very much.
Wow. And but that, I hear that all the time from people that write books or write music, that the words and the characters or whatever comes out doesn't really come from you.
Yep.
And do you think that creative process is kind of like that?
Oh, definitely. It really is.
Yeah.
Authors are creative people, but honestly, all authors, they have little voices in their heads. We all do.
Yes.
They
Yes.
talk to us
Yes.
and tell us what to write.
Yes. I've heard that, people that write music say the very same thing, that, they don't know where it comes from, it just comes. And they know it's right when it comes. And
Hmm.
so I love that. I think that's very, very, very creative. Um, what is the most important? The plot of your story or the characters of your story?
I think both are very, very important when you're writing a book because if you don't have an interesting plot, the characters are just going to dead end somewhere. But if you
Right.
don't have interesting characters, then your
Mhm.
plot just feels really, really flat. But in order to make an interesting plot and for readers to connect with your book, you have to have those characters that are
Right.
really, really influential and easy to connect to and relate to. And
Yeah.
just like I said in the previous thing, I built my entire book off of creating characters, and the
Right.
plot followed it because the characters explained everything. And so the character
And
is definitely the most important part.
the character, well, and yeah, and this is what you said. You said that in starting the book, you had the character in mind.
Hmm.
So that character is very important. The plot, I guess they do go hand in hand, right?
They really do, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've got someone on Facebook saying, Haley Jacobson says, "Hi, Arrow. And where does the name Arrow come from? I want to ask you that." And she said, "You're doing really good." And Haley, thank you for tuning in and supporting Arrow or Sarah, because we really appreciate that. So where does Arrow come from? Because I've seen it on your Facebook page, and now Haley's calling you Arrow.
So that was my pen name when I first started writing.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it kind of kept my identity secret. And now that
Yeah.
I've written more and aged a bit, I've changed. So it's definitely my real name is Sarah,
I
and that's out there now. And some people still call me Arrow, which is fine
I
because that's
love
my
it.
original name. It's what helped me grow.
Oh, I think Arrow is a great name. I mean, it just fits you. It sounds like someone that just is not going to stop, that's going to keep going, soaring. I mean, it's just really, I love that. I love the name Arrow. I think that's fantastic. Um, what are you working on right now? Are you only working on this book? Are you working on other things as well?
At the moment, I'm just focusing on this book because it's my
Got it.
debut novel. It's something that I want to put everything that I have into. Every
Right.
once in a while, I'll branch off from this, and with the same characters, I'll work on small short stories to help me build
Got it.
who they are as a character, because that's really important to me.
Yeah.
But for the moment, I'm just working on this. Since I finished my first draft, I'm taking a break and a breather to write stuff down and plan draft too. I'm changing a lot of stuff.
Good, good. I bet it is like once you've written something, you go back and read it again, you probably think, maybe I should have said this too. I mean, because stories evolve, right? I mean, you start reading your story and you're like, maybe I should add a little of this or a little of that, to make
Yeah.
it more interesting. So, when did you first realize that you wanted to be an author? Now, you've only lived 17 years. So tell me, I mean, did you feel this way as a young child? Tell us about it.
Like I said, I've always been really, really creative. I've always had that urge to create and make something that was original. And I was
Right.
in the sixth grade, and I went to a private school, and we had a very, very small library. And
Wow.
I went through that library and I was reading all that I could, and I'm just like, there's not a book here that I'm totally in love with.
Right.
And then I'm like, what if I created my own? And
Yeah.
so my first book it was a long time ago, and it was a mixture of everything that I loved. I grabbed things from Hunger Games, I grabbed things from Aragon, I think, and I smushed them all
Right.
together, and I'm like, this is what I want in a book. And then I read
Right.
it, I was very, very proud of it. Looking
Oh,
back,
that's
it was not that good, but I was proud of it at the time.
of course. Well, being in sixth grade, I mean, my goodness, just to even take on writing a book in sixth grade, I mean, gosh, you should teach people how to write for goodness sake. You've been doing it for so long in your short time here. I mean, 17 years old. I'm still flabbergasted by it, Sarah. I think it's just amazing. It's just it's fantastic. So, do you plot and like you talked about, your characters and you talked about the plot.
Hmm.
But do you plot and plan it all, or do you just start writing and then it sort of all comes together with the characters and the plot of the book? How does it kind of happen?
So, as far as plotting and planning go, is a starting point, I start a middle point, and then I do an end point. And
Okay.
as long as it meets these 3 points, it's like connect the dots, and everything between the dots is a fuzzy mess. And
Right.
so I start and I just go. I let the characters drive the story. I let it happen. There's originally when I first started writing my novel, it was gonna end up being a love story. And I
Okay.
wrote it. Characters were like, "No, this is not a love story. That's disgusting. Stop." And so it wasn't a love story.
Oh, I love it. No love story here, guys. No love story.
No love stories.
And so, what do you like to write? What is your genre, would you say, of your story?
So, my story that I'm writing now is definitely a horror humor mixed with
Okay.
fantasy, modern day fantasy elements. And I have
Okay.
always loved the idea of something a little bit more magical in our world. And I like scary things, but like I don't do scary movies because they're way too
Right.
scary. And
Yeah.
I can't enjoy something scary unless it's funny. And so
Right.
these things have to go together in order for me to be happy. And so I
Yeah.
mix them together. It's not a super popular combination, but I think it works.
Well, I mean, for you to take on 80,000 plus words, you have a story. And that's the beauty of stories and music and everything creative is that we get to choose what we want that to be about. And because of the amount of people in the world, someone is going, someone and someone and someone after that is going to fall in love with what you've written, you know? there's always an appeal to others, what people write about. Like, none of us are the same, which is a beautiful thing. Oh my gosh, you have so many people on here.
I do.
Brandon Williams says, "Great job, Sarah. I still plan to be first or last. I'm in line when you're doing your book signing."
We'll get
Wow. That's so lovely. And also Sebastian Karen says, "I made it to the show. Hi." So many people. And Michael Karen says, oh, there's a last name, Karen Glennon? Gellin?
Hmm.
Michael Karen Gellin says, "Can't wait to read your book, Sarah. Thanks for having this live show, Kathy. Great format." Fabulous. I'm glad people are liking it. We're not even done yet. So there's a lot of people tuning in and getting inspired. And that's what this show is about. You've inspired a lot of people by what you're doing at such a young age, Sarah. Really. I think it's just fantastic. So do you want to read a little bit?
I would love to.
I would love for you to read just a little excerpt because we don't want to give it away, right?
Definitely. None of this is spoiler, I promise.
Okay, no spoilers. Okay, fantastic.
All right, so this takes place in a coffee shop in Seattle. And
Okay.
three of my characters, Pen, Cade, and Atlas, are all waiting on this god, Anubis, the Egyptian god Anubis, who has told them he'll be there. And so
Okay.
Anubis had said 15 minutes, but he arrived in 10. When he strode through the door, there was no doubt in Pen's mind that he was a god. He carried himself as if he was better than everyone in the room. His skin was bronze, and his eyes shone gold. His hair was darker than soot, and when he saw Cade and smiled, his teeth were perfect and blindingly white. In all of his godliness, he wore a t-shirt and maroon sweatpants, but still managed to look like a total knockout. And stared at him, eyes wide. She elbowed Cade in the ribs as Anubis made his way across the room. "Dude, he's hot." Cade looked at her. "He's way too old for you." "Who are you kidding?" she hissed. "He's too old for you too. But the age gap isn't as big with us. It's still thousands of years. Hundreds of thousands of years, actually." A deep voice corrected her from behind. Chuckling, Anubis slipped into the seat beside Cade. "You don't have a dog face," Atlas blurted. Anubis laughed. "No, not in public." He picked up a sandwich to inspect it before smiling. "Egg salad. You know me too well." A barista walked over with a steaming mug. She not so secretly checked out Anubis. Other baristas were watching her with heated anticipation. "A Turkish coffee for Anubis," she declared. Anubis smiled at her. The poor girl just about melted into the floor. "Thanks, I'll take that." He gently took the cup and deposited a fistful of thick silver and gold coins and sand into her limply outstretched palm. "Anubis," she said wistfully, not even bothering to look at the coins. "I love that name. It's very Spanish." Anubis frowned. "It's Egyptian, actually." He reached back into her hand and took half the coins back. The girl smiled. Sure. Enjoy your coffee." She turned on heel and walked away, slowly at first, but then quicker as she ran back to her anxiously waiting group of friends. On the napkin beneath Anubis's coffee was the girl's phone number. Penn smirked at Cade. "He gets more action than you do, and he doesn't even have to try." "Oh, whatever. He's a god. He's cheating." "You can't cheat at being genuinely better looking," Anubis informed him. He took a bite out of his sandwich and washed it down with a long drink of coffee.
I love it. So it's really, when you talk about gods, but it has this modern twist to it. It's like a god in this time, right? I mean, it's just awesome. I love your writing. It's very good. And I love the way you describe things, your descriptions. And I think that's what makes writing so interesting too, is how people describe a certain event or moment that happens. It's really good. I can't wait to read it myself. And if I have a show and I have you on and you talk about this book, I have to read it. That's all there is to it.
I'll let you know when it comes.
You have to let us know when it comes out because I would love to mention it on the show. In an introduction, when I introduce, I would love to just mention that your book is out and where people can find it. So do keep it in touch with that and let us know about it. Okay, so let's see. If you could tell your younger writing self anything, what would it be?
Don't worry about the plot. That was my big issue when I started writing, is I wanted to micromanage everything, and I didn't realize that the characters just wanted to do their own thing. And
Right,
so I took way too much control over my book, and I worked way too hard on the first 10 or so chapters, and it took me ages. And
right.
then I read a fantastic book called Bird by Bird, and
Okay.
it gave me, it was a gist that was basically like, you know what? It's your first draft. You just need to calm down and let it happen. If your characters want to go and dance, let them go dance. It doesn't really matter. You can change it later.
Right. So that just opened yourself up to really just like you said, letting it go and just letting it be. And this is what happened when you did that. I mean, you've got a book and it's a big book with many words. And I'm writing a book, but it's, I've just learned from listening to you that sometimes we get wrapped up in, like you said, what the story is going to be about, when really we should just actually let it go and just put everything out there because, like you said, you can come back later and look at the words and adjust them
Hmm.
and make it right, do whatever. So just let it spew out, get it out on paper, typing, whatever you're doing, and then go back later and say, hey, I like what I said here, or maybe I want to add something else. It's not the end when you write, right? So that's very inspiring to me. That will help me a lot because I think sometimes when we start writing, and I don't know if you've had this problem, but you start writing and like it's the same for me where I'll be writing and I really don't know where it's coming from and my fingers are going. And when I start to think about it, all of a sudden it becomes more difficult to write. And I have to stop and go, just stop and let it go. And if, what advice, because I know that there's people out there, I know there's young people out there, that are afraid to even take that first step of writing. Or maybe they've written stuff like you and they just kind of have it tucked under something. They say, I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. I'm not going to be good. I mean, this is this crappy voice inside of us that tells us we can't do it, right? Which is, we know it's wrong, but we still hear it. So, what would you tell those young people that maybe are thinking of writing a book and are kind of afraid? I mean,
Much like life, writing it's a journey more than it is a destination. You got to enjoy yourself. If you don't enjoy yourself, then writing isn't for you. You
right,
have to love what you're doing.
right,
And it's just something that you have to fall in love with. Fall in love with your plot. Fall in love with your characters. Create
right,
something that you love and that you're proud of. And
right,
another going along with that is a lot of authors wait until their muse strikes them or wait until they suddenly feel inspired. But don't do that. Because if you're waiting to be inspired, you're never going to get anything done. You
right,
have to
right,
sit down and you have to write. You have to get things done, even if your goal is just a few sentences, or maybe just a sentence or a paragraph, or whatever your goal is. Sit
right.
down and do a little bit of what you love each day,
Each
no
day.
matter what that is. Even if it's
Mhm.
not writing, if it's basketball, do a little basketball each day. Do something that you love each and every day, and you'll improve.
Wow, that's great advice. That's really great advice. It really is. You're wise beyond your years, Sarah. So, is there, I know that you said there was a little bit of fantasy, a little bit of humor, mental health. So, is there a message in this novel that you hope readers will grasp?
Definitely. So a lot of my novel focuses around the issue of mental health. There's schizophrenia, like I talked about, and there's a character. My main character actually suffers from depression, and
Okay.
the big thing that I hope readers will grasp when they discover my story and they read what I've written is that asking for help is okay. It's
Yeah.
okay if you don't think you're strong enough to go through something alone, that there's
Right.
people around you that will help you, and it's okay to need help.
Yeah. It's okay to need help and it's okay to ask for help,
Hmm.
right? Because so many of us don't do that. We just think, oh, I'll be fine or everything's fine. It's all fine. Fine, 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 which is really, effed up, insecure, all those other words. So, you know, I know quite a few people in the mental health field, and it's true, many people won't ask for help, and even people without mental health issues, they don't want to ask for help. They don't want to impose. They don't want to make anybody do anything. But you know what? The beautiful thing about that is that we are not alone. We are not. And if you look at your life and the book that you've written, you've been inspired along the way by others, whether you ask for help or not.
Definitely.
Some, inspiration, you know, is an amazing thing. And it comes in so many different forms. And we're so lucky as people to be inspired by others. Like I'm very inspired by you, Sarah. I'm so glad that you came on the show and you're able to talk about your book. You're able to talk about how the pieces all came together. That's very inspiring to me. You're quite a young woman, quite a young woman.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Don't blush. It's okay. You're adorable. I can tell you. So now there may be people out there. Oh gosh, people are. Oh gosh, you have so many people writing. It's really great to see. Um, People may be thinking about when the book would come out. Where are you at in this process now? Because you've written the words. Are the words done and now you're kind of going through that first process? Or what's happening right now?
So right now, I just finished my first draft of my novel a month or so
Okay.
ago, a little less than a month.
Okay. All
So
right.
with that, the first draft is very, very rough. If anyone were to get a hold of my first draft right now and read through it, it would probably make very, very little sense because so much
Yeah.
changed, so much was
Right.
adjusted throughout the entire thing.
Right.
I'm most likely going to go on within this next year or so throughout the end of next school year and write a couple more drafts, editing and refining it. The big story
Got it.
changes are going to happen in the second draft, and
Got
the
it.
smaller editing stuff will happen in third draft and fourth draft.
Right.
If all goes as planned, I want to start presenting it to publishers and agents at the end of next year.
Very nice. So you really have a plan. You have plotted this out to the T, right? That's awesome. That's very cool. So if people are out there thinking, oh my gosh, she's talked a lot about all of this and I'd really like to get a hold of her. Is that possible? And if it is, how can someone reach out to you and send you an email, or should they go on your Facebook page and send you a message, or what would be the means of getting a hold of you and maybe even having a conversation? Who knows? That's up to you on that end. But what are the
So,
means of getting a hold of you?
so as far as getting a hold of me goes, my email is Sarah,
Right.
SARAHEHULL at Comcast.net. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, hopes, aspirations, dreams, go ahead and send them there. If
Good.
you'd like me to respond faster, it's probably best to tweet at me at Ginger Author on Twitter or
Okay.
send me a message over there, or even on Instagram. You can send me a message on Instagram, but I spend a lot of time on Twitter, so that's probably the best place to get a
You
hold of
do.
me.
Okay, good. And I put on my website the links to Twitter and to Instagram
Hmm.
for your Ginger author. So
Yeah.
you can go on the website, on my website, www.kathybacon.com. You can read about Sarah again. The interview here will be posted there as well. And Sarah, you are an amazing young woman. And I am so grateful that I had the opportunity to sit down and talk with you and find out about you and what makes you tick and about your book and how you've just made this all come together. It's just very admirable. So thank you for being here today.
I'm so happy to be here. This has been a great experience for me. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. And I want you to come back and talk again when the book gets published or you're close to publishing and, you know, ready to do some signing. And oh my gosh, people are saying great wisdom for being so young. Um, yeah. So check out all the comments. And really, I'm so appreciative to have you here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for coming to listen.
Yes, thanks everyone for supporting What's Your Story and for supporting Sarah this evening and hearing about her book. This is not the first time you're going to hear about Sarah. I can tell you that. So she'll be back on, and thank you for all your support in the months before today and the months ahead. I am very eternally grateful because I truly feel that everyone's story is so important. And if we can, if I can, and if Sarah can have the opportunity to get it out to the world, then we've done our job today. So thank you, everyone. I really, really hope that you tune in next week and more guests with such unique story. This is What's Your Story. I'm Kathy Bacon. This has been Sarah Hall. See you all. Goodbye.